After 4,680 hours of leading men on construction job sites, my view of leadership has entirely inverted, and this is why. I thought leadership was a power game. I thought it was about showing dominance, getting people to do what you want, having power and influence over others, and taking credit whenever you have a victory. But along the way, I've learned that that's a very immature stance on what leadership truly is. I used to believe leadership was about power, about control, about being able to tell your constituents what you wanted them to do and them doing it immediately. But that isn't all there is to leadership. There's value and beauty into leading in a way that coaches your employees and coworkers to be better themselves. And this is what happened to me to make me change. Well, you see, somewhere along the way, I realized leadership was nothing like that at all. It's quieter, it's heavier, and it demands a kind of strength that has nothing to do with force. After 4,680 hours of leading men on construction sites, these are the 5 things I did to become a better leader myself. Number 1, trust is greater than power. When I was still a helper, before I became a lead, I worked under a lead named Angel. And on one particular day, I had drilled 3 8-inch holes through 2 doors, completely messing them up. It's not a good deal. So, of course, I had to tell Angel, and he went through the proper procedure and he called our boss. And I was standing next to him as he called our boss, and he never said a word about me drilling through the doors. He took the blame. He got off the phone and I was like, man, why in the world did you take the blame? I'm the one that did it. You didn't do it. He's like, I'm the lead of the job. It's my responsibility to see everything goes right here. He wasn't just about the credit, he was also about the blame, meaning I could trust him. After this happened, there was nothing I wouldn't do to make him look good on this job. He took the blame, so I was going to make sure he got the credit. We worked harder. I collected more information for him than I normally would have. I helped him draft emails. I did anything and everything I could to make that job go faster and make him look good as the lead of that job. Trust will go farther than force. When you force people to try to do what you want them to do, that will only take you so far. But the difference between all my other leads and Angel is I wanted him to look good because he just wasn't about the credit, but he was also about the blame. At this point, you might ask, Dylan, how do we develop a trust that is greater than power? What are the practical steps to getting there with our team that we're leading in the field? What do we need to do on a day-to-day basis to make that happen? From a psychological perspective, there's a phenomenon called mirror neuron trust. And essentially what this entails is as you work side by side with the men, as you are sweating with them, as you are working with them, as you are problem solving with them, what happens is that generates mirror neuron empathy. And when that happens, people stop seeing you as a distant figure. You become part of the group. You become someone that they can rely on and someone that they can depend on and someone they see as capable. So if you are currently in a state where you're a leader that is kind of at distance from the guys that you are leading, don't be so surprised when they don't really see that you are capable because they don't have no practical daily proof. This is the problem when you have people that are bosses that are far separated from the field. If they never see you do anything hard and they don't know what it takes to be in your shoes, chances are they won't develop mirror neuron empathy. And that means there won't be no mirror neuron trust. So the more that you are with them, problem solving, sweating, and working next to your guys, the more that they will trust you to be able to make good decisions on the job. A leader is the first person that goes into battle. How do you expect someone to follow you if you're not the one that's in the front of the line? It's definitionally impossible. To be a good leader, you have to be willing to take the first step. You have to be willing to pick up that first door. You have to be willing to do the work when everyone else doesn't want to. That's now your responsibility. And if you want them to trust you, you are going to have to pick up that sword and you're going to have to march into the cave. Another way to think about trust is to break it down into more measurable terms. So, what if I said you couldn't trust your car? What does that mean? That means likely that your car has technical issues and it does not allow you to get to your job or wherever you want to go. What does that mean? That means your car is inconsistent. Consistency equals predictability, which equals safety. So if you can consistently predict what to expect from an object or person, that person becomes safe. It's only when someone is unpredictable do you have to worry what kind of person they're going to come to work as today. If you have a lead that you can trust, they're going to be predictable. The lead sets the emotional and physical well-being of the entire group. You're the one that is going to set the tone and the belief that you're able to accomplish what you think is going to be accomplished. If you are inconsistent and your guys don't know what to expect, they're not going to want to volunteer information to you because they don't know if they're going to get the honey badger lead today or they're going to get the koala lead today. You got to set the standard and be consistent. If you have emotions that are completely out of balance, then they're not going to be able to predict what will happen if they tell you that something went wrong. If you're having problems on jobs when you're not getting the information from your guys about potential problems and things that they might have messed up, it might be because they're scared to come to you. Now, a part of that is their fault, and they should man up and come to you with that information regardless. But there is an extent that's your responsibility too. As the great Stoics would say, whatever you can control, you need to control, and whatever you can't control, then let it go. I guarantee that there are things that you can control that will let slip. This is one of the things that you can control, your emotional regulation and how you show up to each job. What gets done is entirely dependent on your belief and you being able to coach your team into getting it done. If your actions and your words match daily, you become the psychological anchor for your team. My second point is that attention is gold. All the biggest companies in the world constantly fight for your attention. There's the Egyptian god Horus, which is the all-seeing eye and a falcon that ruled over the land of Egypt. The Egyptians worshipped the god of attention. Marduk is the Mesopotamian god. He had eyes going all around his head. The Mesopotamians worshipped the god of attention. Attention is a currency. It is what is necessary for you to be able to become a great leader. You might say, Dylan, what am I supposed to be paying attention to then? A famous behaviorist, B.F. Skinner, once said, behavior is determined by its consequences. See, your guys on the job will ever so often put forth more effort than they normally do. If you pay attention to that and you reward that behavior, it will be more likely to be repeated. B.F. Skinner was able to train pigeons to guide missiles by training them to peck photographs and feeding them, giving them a reward for doing the behavior that they wanted them to do, that he wanted them to do. He was able to train rats to climb ladders and dance because he paid attention and he rewarded the rats whenever they did what they wanted him to do. He rewarded the rats whenever they did what he wanted them to do. The same thing is true on the job site. Whenever someone reaches out and provides more effort than is normal, that needs to be paid attention to. And not just for barely meeting the mark, but any time that they show just a little bit more effort than normal for their standard, it needs to be called out. There's a couple different ways to do this. The first way to do this is called variable reinforcement. This goes to show that if you overuse compliments, it will become negligible. So every time someone just walks, you don't compliment them. You only compliment them in a variable system. It has to be only whenever they go out of their way and give more effort than normal. And you're not going to catch this 100% of the time, and that's actually a good thing. Because if every time someone does the meaningless little thing, it's rewarded, then your rewards aren't going to be much meaningful. The praise whenever they truly deserve it. A way to add to this is social reinforcement. So if you reward verbally a behavior and you do it in front of the team, that has a social status symbol added to the words. The lead pointing out one of the helpers by doing a good job makes them a little bit higher in the social hierarchy, which triggers a dopaminergic response. This is beneficial for making behaviors repeatable. If you have an excellent helper that day, it would be a good idea to compliment them in front of the team, letting everyone know that they did excellent. The next way to use this type of attention is by modeling and reflection. Whenever you give a compliment that is a model of a behavior, people will want to repeat it. Let me give you an example. Let's say I have a helper that shows careful attention to details on the job. I might say something like, "That is very good. That is like being a lead, paying attention to all the details on the job." Very simple, not very intrinsic, straightforward, almost can slip past the ear if you're not careful and listening. What I did there is I named an identity that was aligned with their action. People want to repeat behaviors that complement the identity that they believe they have or want to have. So if he wants to become a lead, if that's something that he's inspiring to be, by mapping that behavior with that identity, it is significantly more likely for it to be repeated. Number 3, this comes from one of my favorite books of all time, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. In this book, Dr. Covey has an excellent quote about leadership. Leadership is communicating people's worth and potential so clearly that they come to see it themselves. I love that quote. It basically sums up my paradigm shift in leadership in its entirety. When I started, I always commanded what I wanted done out of the people on my job sites. I would tell them, and I wouldn't give much encouragement. I would tell them things like, just go and figure it out. You can't do that? That's crazy. Why are you not able to do that? I would be demeaning. I would tear them down in hopes that they would get mad and then figure it out or something. I don't know. I was hoping that they would just get competitive for whatever reason. But real leadership is communicating the people's value to them so that way they believe it. Think about it. A leader is the person that stands up before the group and tells everyone what they believe can be done. The greatest leaders of all time took a group of people and changed the world. That's what makes them a leader. A great leader encourages the group to help them believe that they could do more than they ever could. Just like when George Washington was fighting in the Revolutionary War, his troops didn't believe that they could win, but he did, and he helped them persevere. Then you might say, well, that's great and all, but how do I implement this on the job? And that's where this beautiful word called stewardship comes in. You see, I am a commercial door lead installer, so we have various amounts of things that we have to do in a commercial door job. We hang the doors and then we hardware the doors. But at each level, as you get better at doing this, you learn more and more stuff. At a beginner level, the only things you're really able to do is maybe hang the door and do some standard lock sets and wall stops. And that's where you start. But you see, you can give responsibility even at such a low level. For us, for instance, once my helpers are trained thoroughly enough where they can complete lock sets by themselves, they get the stewardship of lock sets. And what this means is I tell them, all right, from now on, when we get on a job, like the other jobs, we're all going to work together to hang the doors. But as soon as that's done, you don't have to come ask me what you need to do. Your stewardship is lock sets. You are personally responsible for the lock sets on the job. And when I come to ask a question about lock sets, you are responsible to have that answer. You should know who's doing them, how many are done, and how many are left to be done, and if there's any problems with them that I need to know about. This gives them a sense of responsibility. They are now in control of an entire part of the job, and typically that wouldn't happen till years later once they become a lead themselves. So now they get the opportunity to take control over a part of the job. What a great privilege that is for me, and a great privilege for them. It takes responsibility off of my shoulders, but it also teaches them how to manage time. It teaches them how to keep track of stuff, and it teaches them how to keep track of problems on jobs, and it helps them become more efficient helper overall while they understand what it means to be a lead. My fourth point is humans over robots. I don't want a robotic person to come to me and tell me problems all the time. We have humans. They have access to imagination. They can think outside of the box, something that a programmed robot cannot do. If you provide a code and their code is to just install lock sets, if something happens that is outside the ordinary, it shuts down. There is nothing else that you can do. But a human can change the script. It can figure out ways to get around said problem. So how I implement this in the job is whenever somebody brings me a problem, I want them to bring solutions. So let's say someone comes to me and says, "Hey Dylan, I'm missing this piece of this lock set. What do I do?" I will say, "What do you think you should do? Give me like 2 or 3 options." And they will rattle off 2 or 3 options. And hopefully one of those will sound something like, "I need to write this down and send you a picture of it." And I'll be like, "That's exactly right." And if they don't give me an option that sounds like something I would do, then I would tell them, and I would tell them why. The reason is I don't want robots. I want humans that can think for themselves. My helpers don't just need to know what to do. They need to know why it's important so that way they can make these decisions for themselves whenever they become a lead and on future jobs. If I didn't have to answer silly questions, I would have more time to manage the things that are more important. If I just immediately had a picture and a description over text that I can log into my IT software, that problem would have been solved immediately. And after one time of doing that, they will just send me a text and a picture because they now know what is the reason behind doing the process. They need to be in the mindset of the lead. They need to start understanding what it means to think for themselves. You can have the gopher leadership mentality, which is where you're one brain and you have a bunch of little gophers that go and do exactly what you say. But they're not going to be able to come up with answers to problems on their own. So then you become one mind with 100 hands. And that means every single problem on the job has to run through you. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to have every single insignificant problem ran through me. We do jobs with hundreds of doors. I do not need to know about every single wall stop that won't be placed. They can send me a text and it can be logged into our IT software and the case will be closed. Very easy. I don't need to come walk every single one, every single problem. They can access their own brains and use their own information. I want to use their creativity. I want to use the potential that they have. This is a part of coaching the potential to come out of them. If they bring me a problem, I have them give me 3 solutions to said problem. And if they say one that's good, I will say yes, and I will say why it's good. And now on, they know why they should do this process that way. Eliminates problems immediately. If it happens one time on a job, that problem no longer gets brought up again on the job because my helpers now know what they need to do. My fifth and final point is Parkinson's Law. Parkinson's Law basically states that work will expand to the amount of time allotted for it, while it will also contract to the amount of time allotted for it as well. So let's say you have a deadline, an emergency, and you have to get 8 hours of work done in 2 hours. With a team, you will be able to do it. But if you have 8 hours to do 2 hours worth of work, that 2 hours will expand to fill in that 8 hours of time. This is Parkinson's Law. The most effective people are always setting stringent time restraints on themselves. Every time I do this, if I tell myself, I need to get all these exit devices done before lunchtime, I need to get all these closers done before lunchtime, I am absolutely amazed at the amount that I can get done. But this can go more than just you. If you lead your team and help them believe that something is possible, you can get more done in a much shorter amount of time. This goes back to point 3 about communicating each of your person's potential. You can get more done in a shorter period of time if you set time restraints. Don't allow yourself to just coast through and do the bare minimum. The best leaders set really high expectations for their team and even higher expectations for themselves. So if you want to be an amazing lead, set time restraints for yourself and stick to them. And once you master this art of the Parkinson's Law, teach it to your team. And then whenever everyone's amazed at how much y'all can get done in such a short amount of time, you can now teach others. If you have made it to this point in the video, that means you are the type of individual that wants to grow and you are willing to take the next steps. That's what we're all about here at this channel. We are pushing for growth in every category and we strive to be excellent. So if you found any value in this video, drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope that we can keep growing together. This was Dylan James Growth, and thank you very much.